Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest edition of House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our very good friends at Guinness. I have been told once or twice since we've done this show that it's a sort of therapeutic hour where we waft away through nonsense, and I'm glad that the audience think that. I've genuinely been looking forward to this all day. I've had a rough as fuck day. Had a rather magic...
Talk to us about it.
I've been at a
We'll be
funeral.
here for you.
I've genuinely been at a funeral, and I've actually genuinely looked forward to seeing the brothers.
We're back.
In your sidecar with my goggles on. We're going to start today with a little toast to a friend of mine, a little man called Alf.
Alf.
To Alf, who is a superstar. And
On that note,
yeah,
I went to Mickey Steelbodge's memorial last week, so
Did
I
you?
went to Mickey as well.
and to Mickey as well.
And to Mickey, I wanted to do that actually. I didn't get a chance to go there. Apparently, someone came up and said there's a great story. I don't know if it was. It was like one of his old teammates, like 90 years old.
Literally, he was amazing. So he was telling this story, and they went to a dance, and he said to the girl, "Look, you're just going to have to go a bit easy on me because I'm a bit stiff from rugby." And she went, "I don't care where you're from, love."
And he said this at the funeral, and everyone was just like, he killed it. He's like 90, and it's just that's
It was a very funny speech.
Wasn't Mickey Steelbodge the one who had a heart attack at a post-match function, went to hospital and was back on the G&Ts, back at the club 4
and
hours
then
later?
the second time it happened, he said to the doctor who permanently went around with him at Barbarians Rugby, "Why have you brought me back again?"
Heaven will be
Have
out.
you recovered from last week? With Akinfenwa?
Yeah, just about, yes.
'Cause that was a
quite
real-
a tour de force, wasn't it?
It was a real meeting of like two.
I'm a man of the
colliding.
people. Why
You know,
are you
you're not,
worried
mate.
about this?
You're not. The only time you ever see the people is when you lift your foot up. Do you know what I mean? When you look out the window of your like old school.
Did enjoy the fact that
green-
he was struggling to understand what you said.
Yeah.
Well,
Like claiming
that was a two-way street, trust me.
Claiming he speaks the perfect English.
Yeah.
But I was sort of like the media area, and I was like, hold on a minute, I'm not on the level, but I felt I had more street patois with him than perhaps you
Oh,
did.
come
you
on.
were
You've
so
got the
far.
strut, you roll up a trouser leg and you pretend you're from the Bronx, and you're not.
Bronx. No, I'm not as bad as Nick
when you
Easter.
played at Maidenhead.
I
when
did,
you
yeah.
play-
Listen, but Nick
I live
Easter,
in Shepherd's Bush,
he's the best
you know.
version. No, but with Nick Easter, he took nickname Minty from EastEnders, Cockney geezer,
Complete fake Cockney geezer.
Met his parents, and they were like
Patricia
posher than you.
Sebastian's
Yeah.
or something similar.
Posher than you. So
sorry.
it was interesting to see how you handle it, but I don't know whether the feedback from last week's show was good.
But
or...
I think Binty had to go for the East End because if you spit on people that much when you talk, you can't do it in a posh way, can you?
Yeah, this is very true.
And
This
if you-
is very true.
This is very true. It's nice to be back, actually. I sort of feel like a session with you two and
Fine.
and a correcting the day kind of moment. House of Rugby from Joe, together with Guinness. We've got lots of bits and bobs to talk about. I think we might try and get into some ruggers this week. If you guys are capable of
Sounds
doing
like a
that.
terrible idea.
Some very interesting stuff from Sam Warburton this week, saying he hated 80% of his career, or playing career, or something like that. We've got Rugby X, which obviously you're involved in a bit of that, aren't you?
I am, yeah, incredible.
What do you actually do?
Oh, naturally. Try, skill, flair.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of
All the
bright
things
lights
that
and
you-
smoke.
It's got you written all
That's
over it.
what,
So you're DJing.
I'll explain first of all. So Rugby X, obviously Ben Ryan talked about it. Okay,
Yeah.
so they asked me to get involved, and I kind of was excited. Any kind of new business opportunity, any kind of new thing that's going to help promote rugby, and then I discovered what it was about. And there's I wasn't really the right poster child for it. Speed, skill, limited kicking ability, all these kind of things. But actually, it's amazing. It's 5-on-5. Half a pitch, 10 minutes long, no set piece, no nonsense, under lights of the O2.
Yeah.
It's like
the whole-
fitness games.
Yeah. The whole day's over in kind of 4 hours. You've got 5-on-5 with 2 rolling subs. And the ball comes out, they can go straight in there. And the best bit of it all is with music, with crowd, but you have a sudden death. So if you get a draw of a game, which is quite likely to happen because there's no conversions, no nothing, it's just 5, 10, 15, whatever. The sudden death is you get one attacker, one defender, full field, 10 seconds to score. So it's like Dodgeball, the movie Dodgeball, where and the lights go down, and the spotlights, and they honestly run in the spotlights.
So do each get the chance to attack?
Sounds like a super over.
Yeah, I might admit it's essentially super over. Exactly.
Sounds like
it is.
the National Hockey League where they have the one-on-one with the keeper.
Oh, yes,
don't they?
yes.
It is essentially that. So they both get a chance to do it. But the best
So
thing
do you
is,
pick a guy who can tackle the other guy,
Well, that's
or
the
do you
point.
pick a guy who can score you a try? What happens? Does it just keep going?
yeah, but
So
think
who
what-
would you go with?
well, so obviously you go with someone with some footwork and.
Unless you could go with like a
Well, that's what Ben Ryan's talking about, because the idea is that if I got the ball, do I just try and truck over the bloke, bounce him, and run it in? But Ben Ryan's got to do it in 10 seconds when you try footwork. So when I did the interview with all the press and did some stuff with Joe, they were like, Ugo says he can do you. I was like, they expecting me to go, oh, whatever. I was like, yeah, no, he wouldn't do me. Like, what are you talking about? Completely do me. Yeah, completely do me. Like,
do me
what are you talking about? I'll still be in the changing room. And then Ben Shepherd was doing some stuff there. And then Ben Shepherd could do me. I went, yeah, I retired because I can't run. Like, I don't think you've got completely wrong man.
After a daytime TV presenter.
Yeah, and also the best bit was this is amazing. This is what I did on purpose.
I'm just permeating into you,
right.
slowly and quietly and surreptitiously.
So I got asked by Alex to come and do like a little Q&A thing the other day, right? And I won't say where it is, but we went to a well-to-do London restaurant, and mate, it was like an old school reunion for Alex, and there were people called like Bunty, Atticus, Charlie, and honestly, it was like this. I obviously went to public school. That's fine.
It was the night after we'd done Hack and February, and I was like so out of my depth on the Tuesday, and on the Wednesday, watching Haskell sort of paddle around in uncertainty was extraordinary.
I literally sat there, and people were going, Alex, sorry, I don't understand what you've just said. They're like, Haskell, Bunty, Charlie, and all these people coming over, and I was like this. Just a shock to the core. They were
you weren't. You were absolutely loving
it.
You were trying so hard.
You were like, sorry, you're CFO. I know you. I like you.
But the best was that it was a financial institution. So, of course, I made a whole load of jokes about another financial institution that I work with. And they were like, I was like, and some bloke halfway through the thing just went, Wales! And I was like, what do you mean? Tell me about Wales. I was like, mate, I can't do a one-on-one. We're in the middle of a dinner. It was, but you know what the weird thing was?
You quite enjoyed it in a funny way.
I did enjoy it. They were lovely people, but they were all like, as we look quite like gnarled older men. Within some respect, it's like young posh people like Alex. It's like they got to the age of 18.
Years older than you.
Yeah, but you look younger.
Yes,
you look like there's no edge about you. You look like you've been moisturised.
Moisturised daily.
Exactly. This whole room, well, it was like they matured at like 17. Not quite. They didn't fully develop, but they're all older, really wealthy, young-looking, really old posh people. Do you know what I'm saying? They didn't. There's no like. They all look the same as they haven't aged
well
18.
From their chateau in the south.
Yeah. You're not one to talk. You've come clambering right in, so quiet down.
Mine's a late enjoyment.
Yeah. Where have you parked your car today?
They reckon you parked it at the Palace.
Well, actually, it's not parked there, but it will be.
Is that right? Yeah. On the parade square.
Do you have a pass?
No, not at BP.
Do you not?
Kensington.
KP.
But I keep getting into situations where people cannot have a normal conversation for me. So I went to a dinner the other night, and I sat down with the 10 lads on this table, and every other word was banter.
Was this one that we did together?
Yeah, every other word was banter.
We did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, we're quite sick of each other by the end of it.
Every other word's banter, right? And it's like backslapping, inappropriate. There's not one straight conversation to be had. And I'm like, please, I don't talk like that in normal. I just want to be normal. And they're like, honestly, halfway through the conversation, I was like, listen, lads, I've just got to email my coach about tomorrow. And they're still asking me, what public school do you go to? Banter, Haskell slapping me. I was like, listen, if you two dickheads don't stop touching me and talking while I'm clearing messages, I'm going to kill you both. Relax. But there was like there's no normality. So
but you understand that the only things they see of you is exactly what
I know. I just want to
be
very clear that I'm actually not like that. Can we please have a normal conversation?
So you could have a beautifully just talk rugby tonight, and then people go, actually,
we've done 2/3 of the show already.
Yeah, do you know this thing? Two things. My dad says I swear too much on this, and that woman, the only thing she went, I watched a bit of House of Rugby. Very sweary from you, very sweary. So I've really got to up my game. So I've said dickhead once, and maybe shit. I'm going to try and stop swearing.
Stop fucking swearing.
Sky presenter swearing.
I know, it's so
crazy.
dangerous. I just love living on the edge. Should we talk ruggers? Or
fine.
Other things you want to get off your chest?
No, it was that one thing, because I do feel like I'm getting to a situation where people are like really overcompensating and trying to be all. You've got to stop using the word banter. It's not. Just stop using it. You can't hide behind being rude to people or just do it and go, it's a bit of banter. It's like offensive. Just be normal.
I thought banter got banned a few years back.
It should be.
Well, you can only use it now with a hashtag in front of it.
No, but it's not great. I can't have a serious conversation with people.
We could quite easly bring it back to rugby in a joke way. Ireland are number one in the world.
Oh no. Oh my God.
You've had that up the sleeve for how long?
Brilliant.
You do know that the company's owned by Irish people.
I know, but They get shell 57 points against England, and apparently they're number 1 for beating the second most boring team in the world, in Wales.
Wow.
Oh, dear
We are
goodness.
scattergunning tonight. Do you want anyone else while we're at it?
No.
No.
Okay. But yeah, you'll do well at the World Cup.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Murray, he's loving it.
Muzzatron's loving it.
Right.
Okay,
Serious
Ruggers,
now.
let's get into it. Just 10 days until the Rugby World Cup gets underway in Japan. Teams are now heading out there as preparations intensify, it says on the script. Memories of the moments before a World Cup. Are you champing at the bit at this point to get into it, or are you still got quite a long to-do list? How do you get yourself... How will England and how should England get themselves into Japan time?
I don't know, you're probably asking the wrong, because someone was a bit in the past.
Yes.
So 99.
On the piss.
Yeah. 2003.
Win it. Sorry about that.
On the piss, but win it.
Yeah.
That was our thing. That sort of year, whenever we travelled, the first night was a guaranteed big smash up.
Really?
Yeah, and then you just...
On doctor's orders as a sort of...
probably not on doctor's orders, but it was just accepted that that's what we did to get you to actually fall asleep. So, yeah, whether it's the quality of sleep you actually want, but I'm pretty sure that won't be happening
it'll
this
be
time.
Protein juice and...
But also, it's the problem. It's the
But we
trap,
trained
isn't it?
hard, so we'd get there on... So if we travelled to Australia, but New Zealand, I remember it in that when we went over to do the 2 tests, we did New Zealand first. And
Yeah.
So we got flogged with Dave Redding session in the gym, and then immediately just went out on the smash. Was asleep by midnight.
Jet lag done. And then like +1.
And then the next day, recover the next day. You'd probably fall asleep later on in the day. Do something the next day to keep you awake again. Then you'd be knackered by the end of the night and fall asleep.
And then you're through it.
2 days through it, yeah.
What does a model pro do these days?
No, so normally when we went on tours or did the kind of World Cup stuff, is that the first thing you do is they get into, you obviously get into through the airport, and there's kind of all the meet and greet. You see, I probably saw on the England rugby thing, everyone's doing autographs and seeing people, and very interesting about the Japanese kind of fans.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something at the airport. Or
they've already done it.
cultural
They've done it.
thing.
It's already gone. Yes.
Well, obviously
yeah.
they've already done it.
Yeah, but they will do. I mean, it's interesting because what I found about Japanese fans of, say, of Rico, where I played, they're quite organised in terms of their like cheering and stuff. So there was a guy dressed as a green dinosaur. So they wouldn't spontaneously cheer unless they were organised. And it's a bit like they're playing. They're kind of quite conformist. So the players are extremely well drilled, the Japanese players.
Yeah.
But they're not overly flamboyant. They're kind of quite. There's quite an element of being rigid about it. It's the same thing with the fans. Like they won't just shout, and it's all organised fun. And for
Is it
Rico,
like a TV show where someone just holds
yeah,
up the applause?
Yeah, exactly like that. So the guy from Rico was dressed as a dinosaur for some reason. It wasn't related to anything, and he would cheer and they would all sing. But what was interesting to the fans is when I would turn up, they would have taken photos with you and make incredible drawings, cards, bits and pieces. So I've got it still at home, little drawings that fans had made for me, and they're incredible. And it was like kind of their way of showing their involvement, and they would always take photos with you, and there'd be a kind of a diary of what was going on. So at the airport, you can see straight away that people are already engaged in that kind of stuff. But what we usually do is we would go back to the hotel, ideally have some food, depending on what time it would be, and then they go and do a spin class. Right, so you go off to a spin class at like in a New Zealand, it'd be at that what they called that gym thing, the gym company. It doesn't matter, but you go into a spin class, but you'd also do it with staff. And there's a guy, Dave Barton, who was the media guy, right?
He's at Bristol City.
Yeah,
if you ever meet Dave Barton, never shake his hand.
So Dave Barton, right. So the weird thing was that we would do the spin class, and the whole idea is you get this really keen Kiwi guy or this really keen person, and the idea was you just do 30 minutes, bit of a stretch, bit of a swim, bit of weights if you wanted to do it, but acclimatised. It'd be about 45 minutes, and they'd be piring it on. All the lads would be bantering, but he would be on the thing, but he would just do it like really unnecessary because it was like he didn't know how. He'd never really trained properly, so he'd be like sweating. All the lads would be like looking over, going,
"Hey, look at my effort.
What are you doing?" And he's like sweating and spitting on the floor. So we'd have to go through that rigmarole of him kind of doing that, and we would do the spin class. Then you would kind of acclimatise. Then you might have a dinner out, and they might say a little bit of go for a few beers. But to be honest with you, majority of the squad wouldn't really drink. You'd have a couple of things, but in other tournaments, especially on the Lions tour, you arrive and they would be out, and you'd go to a bar, you'd have security, and they'd be like, right, There's the first bus is going to go back at 12:30. Second bus will go back at 2.
Is it a crime to be on the first bus? Or do the modern
play, you don't have that. There'll be a
was
few
it a crime to be on
It
the
would
first?
have been,
It would have been back in the day. Yeah, but I mean.
Then they brought in those lights that you had to stare at over breakfast, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What? So yeah, they had like UV lights that you'd put on whilst you're having breakfast, which is supposed to stimulate something.
It's supposed to be like,
it's like a melatonin.
These lamps. No, so you get these specific lamps. You buy them off Amazon. They're called like. You put them up and they help acclimatise. They're a special type of light that helps you adjust your sleep.
Seasonal effect.
Essentially something like that.
Yeah.
But they would put them on, so you come down after that, and they would have that on there, and they would encourage you not to sleep in the day and stay awake. But I was terrible. I always got terrible jet lag. I remember when we first landed in New Zealand at one point, I think in 2011, and I got to about the dinner out and I was asleep at the end of the table and just couldn't function. But then other times you've gone out and had a few beers and would help you and you'd be able to bond. But now everyone's looking to stitch you up and it's so nightmarish that people start hanging around and you get filmed and photographed. It's not really worth it. So they will do that. They'll go to the sauna, they'll go to the gym, they'll go back to the hotel, they'll probably have a dinner out on the first night, and then they'll probably ease into a sort of first session, the next day a walk through. Yeah. But every team has these jet lag protocols that everyone talks about, but they're like very flexible, like concussion stuff. It's like, we can't pick these players because of jet lag, and some kid flies straight in and plays the next day. Like, but you told me I couldn't play because of that. They're like, needs must. Like, whether it's a rule or not.
Who was the worst traveller? Who lost their passport for forever getting it wrong?
I think it.
Or are you now sort of shepherded in a way that you cannot get it wrong?
There's always been someone who's not brought a passport when you're going overseas.
Right.
But I was thinking whether
Tommy Howe was the guy.
Whether Johnny May did it one time, and we had to and he'd lost it, and we had to send him. He had to go to Cardiff or wherever and get a new one.
There's a bloke called Tommy Howe that used to be at Wasps, and on the way to Wales on a trip, I stood up and said, "Right, lads, everyone got their passports," and he genuinely thought you needed a passport to get into Wales, and we kept it going so much so he was like calling his mum, like panicking. And I said, and then we go across and be like, right, got the time difference, right? And he's there trying to set his watch and realises he hasn't got his passport, and we're like, you really aren't cut out for normal life.
For life.
We've got a passport, boys are pulling them up, and he genuinely thought you needed a passport to get into Wales.
Rumours abound that England have taken with them a lot of ketchup. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I hate ketchup.
Who is going to... Okay, yeah, but a lot of them obviously do. Who is going to struggle the most with Japan in that England squad?
Well, I think, food-wise, normally, I don't know...
Not just that, but just in terms of...
Look, the problem is, I saw a really actually interesting campaign from Courtney Laws, Peter O'Mahony's done it, and it's quite emotive about leaving their families and what it's like. I don't have kids, so I can imagine just talking to some of the lads how hard it is that when they go to leave, they pack their bags, their kids sit on the bags and like don't want to go, or they hide in the car, or they won't leave, and they don't understand. And he said that's really traumatic. They can't get out of the house. So I think that's always hard for some of the lads. I think culturally, Japan's such an interesting place, and it'll be so exciting and so left field, and so many of them never gone there. When I went to Japan, I had no idea what the rugby was going to be like. I told you, I thought I was going to be like Godzilla, like I was going to be really big, they were going to be small. I was going to have a paper house that I could walk through the wall if I wanted to, and I was going to smash everyone out of the way. Obviously, like an idiot,
like a cartoon character.
Big people gravitate towards big sports. That wasn't the case, and every team had some unbelievable. They had 7, kind of ex-international players playing there, and it was really tough and physical. And there was always some Islanders, and there was a lot of Pacific Islanders who got in under Asian passports. I mean, we had a guy called Omosi who played for us. He was a 125 kilo guy. In the first game, the ball got kicked up, and he caught it with one hand and just ran down the thing, just fending these Japanese people.
Like Jonah Loman rugby back in the day, double left.
Fend. Yeah. And so that was incredible. But I had a really weird experience that I got moved into this house in a place called Fairy Garden in a place called Futaka Tamagawa, which actually bizarrely was the most expensive real estate in Tokyo. And I turned up and there's like a allotment, a garden. I was living next to Tamati Ellison, who him and his amazing wife and kind of their kids adopted me as kind of a weird English guy who used to go around for breakfast. But when I went to get some food, I was like, listen, I'm going to be really, get my nutrition nailed. So I went on my bicycle, because you do bicycle everywhere, to the local supermarket until I got a moped and was illegally driving around, and the translators, because they don't break the rules. Everyone's like, no, not possible. I was like, fine, English style. So I got this bicycle, I went to the local supermarket. And I walked in, and it was like top level supermarket. And it was like loads of noodles and loads of vegetables. And I was walking around all this tin stuff and everything else. And I thought, but I can't find any protein. Right, so I scoured this shop, went around this shop, and there was no other shop nearby. Yeah. Right, it was close enough. I didn't have a taxi, couldn't drive. So I went around, so I've got a load of noodles, ate this food. And I was like, and I was eating the protein at the clubhouse, and they had like good food, but I couldn't find any. So the next day I went back to the supermarket, looking around, going, the Japanese, they must eat protein. I know they've got sushi, where is it? Looking around, couldn't find anything. A week and a half later, as I kind of faded to non-existent, and I was like living on like supplements and noodles, I got to the shop, and every time I asked Japanese people, they didn't want to speak English. They don't really like doing it because it's a bit uncomfortable, just I imagine talking Japanese would be. And anyway, there was an English person in, and I like crawled up to them with like, vitamin deficiency, week, 2
8
stones
days
later,
off it,
8 days off protein, and said, listen, where the hell do you eat protein around here? And she went, downstairs. And I was like, what? So she went, downstairs. I was like, there's a fucking downstairs. I said, where? And she pointed to a corner of the room, and it was like Narnia. It was like 2 shelves that blended together with a staircase, but it looked like a corner of a room. Yeah. And I went downstairs, and if anything, it was too much protein. It was like it's a whole new world, mate. It was unbelievable. I came out like with shopping trolleys of like sushi, everything. Yeah.
And so when you say people who aren't really prepared to travel,
yes, not exactly Alan Wicker in your investigation.
It was incredible. I think the guys will struggle because being away from their families, and I don't know what that's like. And actually, weird enough with Chloe, there was a large portion of my England career where I didn't have a partner, and it was so nice because you could go to I'll explain why. You could go to
careful.
You go to a foreign country, and a lot of lads are ticking down days. Right, a lot of lads are ticking stuff off days and calendars and everything else out. They want to go home, but I didn't do that. I got to a country and I was like, I've got no rush to be back. Except to see my mum and dad. I want to throw myself into it anyway. So if someone says stay on, that's fine. If someone says go out for a day, I had no problems. Didn't have to call anyone, didn't have to do anything. And then I met Chloe and fell in love with her. And I was like, while I was away, you wanted to see her. I wanted to be back. I missed her. And I kind of said, I did explain that to her. I said, it's quite hard because it was nice when you had no one to rush back to. And I imagine the lads with families will struggle. But actually, there'll be lads out there who will absolutely love it.
Wags are joining in. Yay or nay?
What do you mean joining in?
So Eddie Jones has let the Wags join the players?
Yeah, I think...
in this day and age?
If you make a big deal out of it, it's a big deal. If you don't, you don't.
Okay. It's interesting because it's against his normal thing, because Eddie would have... So you wouldn't allow a day before a game. So you used to back in the day, your missus would arrive after team run.
That's quite... I still think you shouldn't really... Sometimes the night before, and that's nearly 3 times in a row.
I didn't drink though, did I? Just teasing the viewers. Just teasing the Buffaloes.
I think night before is quite good in terms of just making sure you can have your own sleep and do whatever you want to do. But I mean, ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes normality of having your wife around, kids around, is actually a good thing. I think it's everyone's personal preference. If you don't like it, you'll probably stop it yourself. If you do like it, then
okay. But it's interesting to change that. But he's done that because it was. But maybe they'll be separated and then go and do that. Because I remember I used to have partners come and stay, but and I'd have to have a conversation. Chloe talked about it on the podcast we did, and I said to her, listen, game day, babe, unless you're physically on fire or someone I know's dying, I really don't want to hear about any of your problems.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, if you've got a little bugbear, it doesn't matter if I haven't asked you anything, considering, just leave me for this one day, and after the game, don't get steaming, because the last thing I want to come in is find you steaming, and then when I'm like upset about the way I performed or whatever, and you've turning around going, what's wrong? Why are you ignoring me? I'm like, I'm not ignoring. Why are you being rude? I'm like, no, shut the fuck up. Well, are you being rude? I'm like, no. So I can imagine. But it's quite nice to be on there because, again, Japan is such a unique place that so many people don't go and visit. I think actually sharing that with your partner and having a bit, and there will be downtime because they can't flog them too much, No.
One thing I do very quick: England-Italy last Friday. Sort of just a gentle loosener before they get on the plane, or anything in there to excite or concern or take the box?
It was pretty dull, wasn't it, first half? But look, it's just a job done. Main role is going through everyone's head is don't get injured, probably. So I think enough was done. I wouldn't really look at it two ways.
The other thing I wanted to pick up on is Stephen Jones. I've mentioned this a couple of times. Stephen Jones wrote an article, I think it was off the back of the Wales defeat in Cardiff, saying that this England team hasn't yet captured the imagination of the public. They haven't yet got buy-in in the way that the 03 crew did, and perhaps Carling's a lot in '91. But actually, I just wonder if in a very short space of time they have done that. And, they then got really going against Ireland. But I just think of the Ellis Genge, lovely touch, giving his shirt to the guy who's been communicating with Joe Thocken and Singer. They've all handed out balls as they've gone round, but Joe Thocken and Singer made a lovely gesture at Twickenham. Owen Farrell, I don't know if you've seen this week, has, I presume, been instrumental in his Join Jack charity becoming the official charity of Saracens. And I just wonder, actually, if in a sort of fast-forward way, they have begun to tap into the sort of the deeper psyche of not just the rugby public, but the imagination. Or do you think you have to win it to get that?
Well, no, I don't think that at all. I don't think you have to give out anything either. You've got to. The whole point is to try and inspire people that they believe that you're going to win. And I think England have done that. The only hiccup in England's preparations are the ones where they get the odd game where they just seem to implode. So there's obviously Wales away in the Six Nations. In some respects, Wales away in the warm-up games, and then Scotland. Because if you look at all the other performers, you're going in there going, England have got equally the favourites or should be the favourites going in there, and there's definite belief in anyone you speak to, and the only question mark over them is just those little inconsistencies where the game doesn't quite go their way.
Yeah.
Now I think they've got. I don't think you necessarily. I think obviously Sonny Bill started the. Would you say Sonny Bill started the giving away of a medal and knowing that you're going to get another one and look how good he is? Do you need to do that to?
I don't know. I just wonder actually whether it's success that gets by
a person. Yeah,
you win something, you get adored.
If you're following your team and you actually genuinely think every game you're going into you've got a chance of winning, then that's and you're feeling positive about the way they play.
Yeah.
You're not going to go watch another snooze fest.
No, I think it's
Ireland, Wales.
Double down.
I think that's more that what they want is to be inspired by what they're going to see on the field, and that's the players that they look at. And you look through England 1 to 30, and you're going, if he has a good game, we're definitely going to win that. If he has a good game,
I think it's it's a really interesting thing. I think I like Stephen Jones. I think he's quite controversial in what he says, and it's interesting because I think in the world of social media now there are so many different tiers of fans. In terms of there's the people that are, irregardless of whatever happens, love England.
Yeah,
can't fault it. Then you get this other band of supporters, perhaps like the House of Rugby fans, who follow the social media, they're interested. I think this England team, even though having worked with the RFU and other people, they sanitise a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. They panic about, can't say this, can't say anything controversial, got to escape. But actually, if you look at their channels, I think it's brilliant. They tried to create an insight. They tried to get the characters out of the team. So, so fans become more accustomed with the likes of what a Tom Curry's like, what a Jonathan Joseph like, what an Anthony Watson's like. And they showcase him in different ways. I think O2 are great at executing that kind of stuff. And people have that. And I think what's interesting about Ellis Genge in particular is that knowing his character, I think he does a lot of that kind of stuff, and I think that he would have done it regardless of. Look, everyone's kind of.
You're right, E.T.
What is that?
What is that?
What have you done?
Is that like a James Bond pen?
Did you even know?
What the hell?
I didn't even know that happened.
I was like, why is he blinding me with this light pen?
It's a royal pen.
It's a royal
protection
pen.
officers at a moment's notice.
Is that like a taser?
Tim's pen is just lit up like a torch.
What is that?
What are you doing?
Shit! It's Doctor Who's magic screwdriver. Fuck me, that's gonna blind.
There you go.
It's like from Kingsman. It's gonna activate a poison.
It's from Struder,
it's like Men in Black,
the joinery.
Shout
Shout out to Struder, the joinery company. Well done.
Well done.
So you need to see in the dark.
But I think with like Ellis, he's such an interesting character, and I think we tried to get him on before, and he couldn't come on. He has so many layers and everything else. I think it's nice to see him in action. I think the lads want to do something. They do it for the right reasons because they feel like they should.
Are you conscious of it as a player? Is it something that you feel, I should? Or
I think it's very hard to ascertain what is a sob story, what is not, what is correct, what is someone trying it on. I get asked all the time, and when people write to me and they, and it's done the right way, I'll always sign a pair of boots, send a book, send memorabilia, go out my way, tell them to send something. I'll help them. What I can't abide
is it really annoying when they send the book back?
Yeah, we hate that. Yeah, have you got someone else who actually plays rugby to sign it? It's when they throw it through the front window of the house, which is quite bad. But
it's never got the weight to get through a window.
Like Sam Walters
Can't throw a leaflet through a window.
Pamphlet. No, I just think you are aware. I think it is important, but I think boys, sometimes people can be business minded. But actually, I do think the nation's got behind this team. I think since Eddie Jones has come in, I think they are very excitable. I think they are very popular. I think that this team has captured the imagination. I think. You've removed some of the older heads, so there's some younger guys in there that maybe aren't as well known, so maybe they don't identify as much. But I promise you, as soon as I start playing, they do that. And I think what Ellis did was fantastic. I think what Cochran and Singer does is fantastic. Yeah, you sometimes give them balls to give to people, but Ellis can just give away a match shirt. I'd never given away a match shirt really, unless under kind of given it to a couple of charities, I'll give it to a couple of schools, but otherwise no, I wouldn't, because I really value them.
Yeah.
And for him to do that for that kid who apparently had learning difficulties or whatever, I think that's really special. And I think I think Ellis does really good things like that, and he's actually a lot more of an interesting character. When I first met him, I thought, what's wrong with this dude? Like, he's literally looks like Dredrick Tatum, and he looks like he wants to fight everyone. But it turns out he's actually one of the most warm-hearted, kind of guys. Loves the show, loves his stuff, and it's breaking it down. And I think hopefully through social media, fans get more access to it.
Good on them.
But I think yeah.
But ultimately, if you win, then you inspire the public.
Of course.
Yeah,
What happens if they went out to group stage? They'd be like, "Why are they having out all this?" You just can't win. It's
you can't. You never win.
You've just got to do what's right for you, and don't think about the bigger. Don't think about what other people think about it.
Yeah.
It's whatever makes you happy at the end of the day.
Let's hope the buy-in grows over the next few weeks.
I think it has brought in.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about, as they go, it gets bigger and better.
Look, as long as we don't get that madness that happens around when English teams go, like in 2015, where the whole nation, when we got pumped out, the
it's hard at a home World Cup though, for people not to get carried away with it.
No, but it's like nobody plays any logic. It's like with sports fans in general, not just rugby, but they don't have any perspective. So everyone thinks their team should win, and there should nothing that should get in the way, and that we're not really human. But there wouldn't be a betting industry and everything else if there wasn't uncertainty and everything else.
If you just turn up and you win.
Yeah, you turn up, you win. And the thing with like the 2015 thing was that we'd never beaten a Southern Hemisphere team consistently. We had this big send-off and everyone was like, oh my God, I can't believe you didn't win. It was like, where on earth? We all thought where on earth did you think we were going to win that from? What, we were just suddenly going to beat everyone we hadn't consistently beaten? I think with Eddie Jones's mob, I think it will be something that will cumulatively grow. I think hopefully if they can perform over there, if they can enjoy, if they don't get any controversy, because there will be journalists out there waiting. There will be. That
is probably the downside. There will be people who are out there just to tee him up.
To watch them play.
I mean, we had a situation. I mean, in 2014, I think, or no, actually before, not 2014, 2009 or 8 actually in New Zealand. First night went out on a night out, and the team manager had invited a couple of girls, and it was subsequently one of those girls that had been in that then made some claims against the lads, and it was like, that, how did that even happen? How did that we were allowed in? It was all vetted, it was all and it was a complete made up story from her. But again, because people like the RFU and people like that, they panic because PR is so key, and you can't defend that. And obviously, the laws around papers and claims and stuff are as they are. There will be situations like that, and no doubt there'll be situations back here where people will start coming out and saying bits and pieces. It happens.
That incident. Because I remember that it sort of erupted. It got
massive,
very out of control. Were you part of that?
Yeah, but I wasn't around. But do you know what the best was?
The next week we weren't even allowed anywhere without like 20 guards.
Yeah. But I think that's a good thing.
You weren't allowed out of your hotel. You literally had to go. And like Sarah flew over. She was like, "I'm going out." So literally was like, "Well, we're going out." And then but we had to take 2 people.
Do you remember? So 2011 that happened. But do you remember in 2008? I don't want to name the name. I don't want to bring it up. But there was a thing that happened over there, and it was essentially. This
it was after the final test, wasn't it?
Yeah, it had come out, but it was from the very first night. And what happened is Ivan saw it. So we had security at the time. We had some Kiwi guys, and actually they were really good. And I remember one of the single lads had gone back to the hotel, and the security guy said, "This woman said, listen, you do know if you come to this hotel, this whatever can happen, can happen." She was like, "Yeah, 100%, absolutely fine, above board." And then lo and behold, later, oh no. But it was bullshit. It was all made up. It was a complete stitch-up. It just wasn't handled very well. And then in 2011, we had something similar where it was just completely absolute crap, handled like badly. But the problem is that now all you need is a little bit of smoke or a little bit of something, and you can't. It derails everything, and it's really hard. And I think that's one of the pitfalls of going to World Cup, is that in place like that, there are genuine people there to stitch you up, and there are journalists that write about stuff that don't normally write, and they're looking to do it, and it's trying to be sensible. And even situations which seem on the surface really normal and perfectly innocuous can be turned on their head.
As a player, are you pissed off by it? Are you frightened by it? Are you?
Yeah, I'm frightened about it. Yeah.
You're frightened
Well, not now, but I mean, I would have been. Yeah, I think it's really.
It's difficult because you're trying to balance. If you go to, say, a World Cup or whatever, you want to be accessible for people who have made the trip out there. But then if you go too accessible, then someone will take a photo. It might be a completely innocent photo that's in a bar, but then they'll put it on social media with no malice intended whatsoever. Someone just strips it off it and go, look, England boys out on the piss, not taking the World Cup serious. And it's all come from a well-humoured thing. And it might not be a big deal, but they can build it into whatever they want.
But it's like 2011. So
You were telling the story the other day.
Which one?
We were comparing, obviously, the stag do that was the England compared to Ireland and Wales.
So what? I mean, again, I was going to say some of this for the autobiography, but there was an interesting case where we did when we arrived in Queenstown.
Which is a hell of a place.
It was an amazing place.
You can't not.
We basically had we didn't have a game for a bit. Had a night, and there was some decisions made over stuff that probably in hindsight wasn't right. Not talking about way of treating people, just alcohol was consumed, etc. But there was this really weird situation where we decided to do something called the Big Four, which was whitewater rafting, because we had a couple of days off, whitewater rafting, bungee jumping, canyon swing, and helicopter ride.
The day after, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the boys had done this, and I got up there, and our media guy, Dave Barton and Martin Johnson, said, listen, you've got to take Sky with you.
Then,
yeah, Will Chignall as well. So you've got to take Sky with you on a day off. And I sat down and I said, I don't think this is a good idea. I said, I don't think you should take them on there. We don't need to do it. We don't need to give them access. This is a private day off. Don't do it. Right? And they were like, well, you just do as you're told. I said, I tell you, and John, I said, don't do it. He said, no, we need to do it. They've got access to it. I said, fine. So we all went off and did this big four thing, did the helicopter ride, the whitewater rafting. There's, I think Dylan posted a photo when I retired of me, Shawsy, Ash, I think Tins was due to come, but you were lying.
Yeah, that was the helicopter
That was the helicopter ride. And then we did the bungee jumping, right? And we got Dave Rogers from Getty taking photos, and we were all bungee jumping over that of the time of my life, doing interviews. Sky, I've got access to everything. Lo and behold, the wheels come off. It's suddenly all those photos, all that footage that been used. Do it.
Brian Moore having to go at Tomo for riding not Tomo,
Shawsy, or was it Tomo?
For riding a motorbike.
Yeah.
And he rides a motorbike. It's like, well, he rides one at home. What's the difference between now and...
And it was carnage.
He's going to have a look around on a motorbike.
And there's like more to it than that. I'm actually going to put it in my book, genuinely, just the way we were like kind of handled, how mishandled that whole shambles was, and how bizarre it was, and how it was like the last people in the whole equation were us, and how we were supposed to be treated and the way we were treated. But it was bizarre, and I kind of argued with them and said, look, this is just not acceptable. And the weird thing was that because we didn't play very well, we got thrown out the thing. What was interesting is that when they wrote the articles, everyone was like, disgraceful England, Mike Tindall stag do, bungee jumping,
man off the back
of the ferry, all these kind of things. Weirdly enough, we got ball tampering in a game that we won 60 points to something, which is the fucking point. It was all because Johnny couldn't kick the ball over the thing, but
mainly because he was OCD,
couldn't get it right, and there was and there was just all these kind of things going on. And then there was this bizarre situation where actually the Welsh squad, they interviewed Sam Warburton, and he went, I don't drink. I hadn't had a drink for 6 months. Right, and everyone's like, oh, the Welsh, they're so professional. I was like, no, he don't drink. The rest drink. They've been on a steamboat the whole time. We do bungee jumping, and everyone's like, they're so dangerous, right? Nobody dies really from bungee jumping. Welsh go to motorbike, quad biking, right? Quad biking of us that, and everyone's like, "Oh, the plucky Welsh enjoying a day out because they got to the semi-final, whatever it was." It's like people die from quad biking all the time. It is far more dangerous than bungee jumping. I wouldn't mind if we're all on the same playing field, but it's like our journalists, they just forget everything. It's the same thing I told you about when they interviewed Brody Retallick, and they went, "So who are you looking forward to playing the English side?" He went, "Michael Laws," and everyone goes, "Oh, the Kiwis, hey, they're Michael Laws."
Doesn't even pay attention, focuses on themselves.
Yeah, imagine I went, I
remember when Ben Cohen went, Shane who?
Yeah.
Because he didn't hear his name. And, oh my God, arrogant.
Imagine
English.
I did that when playing the All Blacks. I went, oh, that Bill Barrett, he's a fucking unbelievable number 9. They're like, he plays 10 and his name's Bowden. I'd be like, ah! They'd be like, arrogant Haskell, thinks nothing of himself. He spent less time doing business and more time doing rugby. It's like, there's no common ground. So like, I feel sorry for Tins, I feel sorry for myself, I feel sorry for anybody who crosses our media because they are hanging.
I don't mind. I had a great night.
Yeah, we had a great FaceTime, and then
Shit happens.
yeah.
Murray the Gnaws it. Do you want another one?
I'll have another one.
While Muzzletron gets us a pint, a quick reminder, you are listening to the House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our very good friends at Guinness. The latest episode of Liquid Football with Kelly Cates is available to watch or download right now, should you wish to do that. This week, Kelly was joined by Steve Sidwell and Jonathan Walters, and they've been apparently responding to some fairly fierce criticism from Roy Keane. Did you see that?
No, what?
He had a sit-down with Gary Neville and wowzers.
Why? What's he done?
Talk about torching your teammates.
Literally loves. Keane's just like,
Yeah, he went for Ferguson, he went for all sorts of people.
I like
Anyway,
Derek Chisora today, or yesterday night. Have you seen
my
that?
word.
No.
What a boy! He's just
that's intense.
So I've got to know Derek quite well. He turns out he knew Chloe and him knew each other when they're 15. I've checked that nothing funny went on. But even if it did, you can't argue with Derek.
There's not a lot you can do about it now, is
It's Del
there?
Boy, there's nothing you can do. But apparently, according to both of them,
What's the connection between
North London crew, North London way. So I've got so
Are
Derek
they
A.
similar ages?
Yeah, not far off. I don't know how
really?
old Derek is. I think he was a little bit older potentially, but he's lovely. Like, he's such a lovely guy. And I was watching the press conference, and I haven't messaged him yet, when he's like demanding that he wants to be main event. And he said, listen, and he's sitting next to these two little lightweight dudes, and he's like, nobody gives a shit about these two. And I'm paraphrasing so I can swear what he said. Nobody gives a shit about the two. And the bloke's like, well, number one. He's like, mate, nobody gives a fuck. Don't get me started. You two either make me the main event or pay me more money. And they go to Eddie Hearn and everyone's laughing. And like Derek goes,
But it's not him, Eddie Hearn, who sets that, is it?
Yeah,
It's
no.
the guy, can't remember what his name is, who sets the order of the fight, who is the main event. And he was just talking straight away, going, well, if I'm not the main event, pay me F word, more money.
That is sweaty.
Literally. But it's live, isn't it? It's it's a
on
live.
Sky
yeah,
Sports
and,
News.
he's like, and he goes, I'm the box office. He goes, I'm not inviting all my London fans to this event if you're not going to pull me off the card. I don't give a shit. And the bloke's like, well, number one. He's like, nobody gives a shit what you're about, mate. Shut up. And he goes, I'm going to go I'm going to go fucking ballistic in a minute. Everyone's like that. David Hayes sitting next to him. And Derek's got it in him just to tip the table up, start banging
and
people out.
literally, Eddie Hearn was like, you can see him going, this could be interesting.
Yeah, mate, I've seen him. I saw
to be
like,
there
the
now.
highlights of War Chisora from his last few fights. Mate, he throws some absolute bombs. And I've seen him training at shoot fighters. He does some stuff with them. And his fitness, and he's in shape, he's hungry. And I posted a picture of me and like saying, oh, my new friend sparring. And people go, oh my God, I can't believe you're sparring Derek Chisora. I was like, are you insane?
How's your training going?
Yeah, good actually. Hard,
Yeah.
but good, yeah.
Your hurty toes still pointing in the right direction?
Yeah, it's right. It's right. Actually, yeah, I'm getting through with it. I've never sweated so much in my entire life doing this.
And you
training.
like a bead. I mean,
I
you
do
are-
like a bead, but
yeah.
it's like
It's the wrestling side, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the 800 calories in 48 minutes of just doing stand up, but it's like non-stop momentum for 2 hours. And they go, right, you jump in the class, and I started doing the class and stuff. Then you're pulling me out, and then we're doing like stuff against the cage, wrestling. All remember that at the moment we're not doing the full sparring bit. So everything, like we're doing some stuff the other day from guard and side control, and the guy's got his elbow in his face, and you're like, you've got to deal with that because in a fight, bloke's going to be elbowing you. So you're dealing with that, dealing with this, and it's non-stop, and you're getting thrown on the floor, getting up, putting someone else on the floor, getting up, and it's like 2 hours, and I reckon I'm burning
Down and up.
the second hour 1,200 calories no stop. I reckon I'm burning over like 2,000 calories in just one session, and I can't, mate. I sit down and I'm just pool of water. It's like incessant, and it's just completely different than anything I've ever done.
I remember Brett Deacon. I went skiing with Brett Deacon, and it was the first time he'd ever gone skiing, and he must have done 3,500 down and ups. Honestly, and literally got to the bottom of the hill, and he was just his whole thing was just soaking wet.
Jesus.
But yeah, it's the same
Actually-
thing. The amount of times you have to go down,
Yeah,
up, down,
but
up.
but even if
But if
things-
you just said to someone, right, do 400 down ups, you'd be absolutely out.
No, but it's like, but it's also things like, so obviously there's the element of techniques, they're building up stuff, but remember that people who do jiu-jitsu, obviously it's amazing, but you're not getting punched in the head.
Yeah.
Same thing with the wrestling. So then you've got that element of it, and you're like having to think clearly while you're doing that, while you're getting
someone's trying to
hit.
throw elbows
yeah,
in your
and
face.
it's like, so you throw a combination, takedown, takedown, then against the cage, right, defender takedown, and it's like you're on one leg and they're running the pipe and they're just literally pulling you straight to the floor.
Split,
Yeah, and you're like
spread.
trying to balance and to balance. The other day I was like working on my single leg defence. It was like going all right, and then the guy just kicked my other leg out of the way. I was like, I haven't even learnt that. I was like, what the hell? How are you supposed to do that? He's like, oh, we'll come to
Hop,
that. Yeah.
hop.
So every time I get all right at something, they then bring something else in, and I'm like, this is unfair.
I'd rather have a cup of tea and a hobnob. Do the
Well,
Sudoku
of
and
course
tea
you
too. You mentioned skiing. Have you ever skied before?
No, and I never will. But I know what you're saying. I'm keen for it.
Are you?
Yeah, 100%.
So there is rumours abound that there might be a House of Rugby ski trip.
Amazing.
Would you be up for that?
Yes. And I know a lot of people in the ski world.
So I said I'll be good for pre-ski and après-ski, maybe some DJing, but I ain't skiing.
We'll go to the Moosevert. You've been to
I
Moosevert?
don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
Done the Moosevert before?
No?
Those that know.
Right.
Oh, come on, you've got to... Well...
No, I don't want to ski. I genuinely
Why?
don't want to.
Snowboard?
I don't. Listen.
You can have a little sledge and we'll tow you.
I do
Like a little
tobogganing.
elf.
I do tobogganing. I'll do
like-
skidoo stuff, and I'll do on a little toboggan, but I ain't skiing.
Fat
There's no
bike.
way that I've lasted this long and to get on a set of skis and fall and just do my knee, or like it's not worth
You'll be
it.
fine.
I don't care. I don't want
fine.
to. I don't want
Bloody
to.
fine.
Strong legs, you'll be fine.
I don't want to. Forget it.
Actually, funny enough, when I said...
I'm completely reckless.
have you heard
and I
about the
haven't really helped myself
criticism from
Yeah,
Roy
but Chloe
Keane?
said you were mad, like, but I just don't have that in me. You're
Have you
coordinated.
got your onesie, your latex onesie?
I have, yeah.
Have you really?
Yeah.
We'll get that out again. Had you skied before the jump?
I've got that and then the actual ski jump outfit as well.
Have you really? Had you ever skied before that?
Yeah.
You had?
Yeah, well, I skied when I was at school and then didn't ski
While you were playing?
whilst I was playing for England. And then
Yeah.
as soon as I got binned off at England, then there were those weeks that appeared where the Power Gen or whatever cup, the Anglo-Welsh Cup, where you'd been knocked out, you had a week. So then I started going then again.
With their blessing or with their ignorance?
I was old, I didn't really care at that time.
I was old, but I was happy. We're actually still in the middle of the mid-show trail. So the second part of that says you can hear more from John Walters about his relationship with Roy Keane in the latest episode of Liquid Football, available to watch on YouTube or download via your usual podcast provider. Sam Warburton?
Yeah.
Now, this is quite interesting. New autobiography out at the moment. He says he didn't enjoy 80% of his rugby career and reveals how the pressure of playing rugby affected him. He wrote in it, "Give me food poisoning so I can't play. Let the bus crash, not badly, obviously, so I can't play. Let me turn my ankle on the stairs so I can't play."
Yeah, but to be fair, if
Which
you
is
lived and played in Wales, you wouldn't enjoy 80% of it.
Yeah. Welcome to
not joking.
Welcome on the
And,
bus.
Actually, I
They've
love
just
Wales.
pulled the live
I
show
love
in
Wales.
Cardiff and Swansea and
I love
Llanelli.
Wales. The Welsh can take a joke. They love that.
they
eh?
love it.
Do you
Just
think?
A bit of chat in it.
What is extraordinary is how much he achieved in the game and where he has stood. I mean, a double Lions captain, the first man to do so. No, Jono, the second man to do so. That's amazing, isn't it? I find that you hear so much about the.
Just doesn't make sense to me.
Does it not?
I will be honest. There are.
Did you
times,
ever have doubts like that?
Yeah. Listen, there were times, and I said about like my working with psychologists, like confidence issues I had around my game. Not obviously generally, don't become a gobshite like me, but by not having some sort of confidence. But it was only around my rugby and something I had to work really hard on. There were moments where I build up to a game, and I would think, maybe I could just run away and not play.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't enjoy it, but it was just like, I don't, like fear of making mistakes, doing everything else that I don't want to, it's almost if I could run away and then we win the game and I, do you know what I mean? Those kind of moments, or like, if something happened, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't wish for the bus to crash or whatever, things like that. I didn't, and listen, what you got to remember about any of these things is that anybody's job, I'll show you the most exciting, the most privileged job in the world. There are going to be times where you're not going to enjoy it. There are going to be times where you're not going to feel part of it.
80% is a lot.
No, never.
Fucking 80% is.
No.
There's only one good day at training a week.
But
Well, it might be match day.
Yeah.
But has he opened up and said, did he have psychological issues with that?
Well, no, he has said he'd do it all over again. So I just wonder whether it's. I mean, you guys are. My leg, we're back.
Stop.
The taser.
I mean,
E.T. Pen.
some people do. Like what Greenwood on a Saturday hated it.
Really?
Like literally.
He said in the past he used to stand in the tunnel thinking, "Why in God's name do I do this?"
Because he got so nervous, but I get that on a game day. It's different. Like obviously, it doesn't affect you once you get on the field, but I can understand in the build-up for the 2 hours before the game. Like Will hated it. Like he had lucky t-shirt, lucky socks. And like a lot of us would fuck around with him and nick him and stuff. So he obviously hated it.
Right.
But
Really helpful.
But then he gets nervous, which is fine though. But then 80% is all week. There's only one good day a week. Hopefully that's match day. But I mean, why would you do it if you disliked it that much?
As I got older, I used to have those nerves on match day. Not the same as like you're saying about Will Greenwood, but actually, like I said, thinking, I don't want to play, I don't want to make mistakes, I don't want to do this, but actually then I completely flipped it, and I started living for those moments. And I could never understand when people would go away for away games, how they'd really enjoy it, or the married lads or whatever would just, or the ones with kids and families just being we're just having a nice bit of rest, actually getting some sleep.
Yeah.
I could never see it. I wanted to get a game over with so I could come back. And as I got older, I just went, do you know what? This is such a great experience. We're going with the lads. We're on the bus. We're getting to play, and I couldn't enjoy it more. And I think from my whole career, most mornings I woke up thinking, do you know what? If I just call, I'm really hard working, trained, like never going to doubt. But just call up and say I'm sick, or I just have a day off. But you never give in, because people get those voices in everyone's head. And for him to say that's something undiagnosed. That's like, you can't say 80% unless he's like.
But then say you do it all over again, but then. That's why you say, well, okay, he doesn't drink, so he probably didn't go out that much. But then, what was his other outlets? So if he didn't have any,
I'd love to discuss it with him.
I think it would be interesting to get him on, because I think if you live, this is the one criticism that I always had, is that people said to me, like, even Brian Moore used to do it. I remember he did me in the papers years and years and years ago, going, and this is the silliness of it. He said, I've never met James Haskell, I've never seen him, but from the looks of his website and everything else, this guy is not somebody I would like and everything else. I was like, well, Brian Moore, years ago.
Old school.
Yeah, old school. And I was like, listen, by the very fact you've said you don't know me, it's a stupid comment to make. You can't judge a book by its cover. That's rule number one,
But you can always formulate an opinion.
You can formulate an opinion, but you shouldn't necessarily share it without qualifying it, because that's like the world of fake news, isn't it? It's so.
Yes, Donald.
Yes, Donald. Yeah, exactly. No, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you've got no experience, you can't comment. And I always did stuff outside of rugby, because if you live through rugby only, right? So some of these lads, teammates in England team and other people who only live for rugby, so they will go to an away game playing on Saturday. They will go into the team bar. They will ask to put the game on. Or something, Gloucester Bath Friday night, right? They will live through everything. Their whole game is that they're thinking about it the whole time. If they're going well, then brilliant. If you're going badly, you're injured, and you've got nothing else in your life, and say you marry an absolute rugby nurse, right, who knew who you were before you got married, loves rugby as well, so there's no escaping for it. And I see it all the time with lads. They come off the field, and their missus is like, that wasn't good, you tackle it, you're like, oh my God, you're getting nosed, he's getting nosed, there's nothing, there's no escape. That's why I've always encouraged people, whatever area it would be, and some guys have families or whatever, but you've got to have something else. So when you get home, once all the boxes are ticked, you have somewhat variety. And I genuinely worry about some of these lads, about what they're going to do and what they do when they finish. And like Sam, he latterly has come out and done some really interesting pieces and been very candid. I think it's important.
He's going into like leadership.
Yeah. And I think he's very good. He's really good. I mean, you can never trust a man who don't drink, or
someone who didn't enjoy 80% of what he did.
Yeah, exactly.
How can you give a leadership? They go 80% of the time. I hated everything I did.
Yeah, there's
80% of the time.
You can never trust anyone who doesn't drink, or you never see his penis. Those are the two rules I used to get. A team. I'm talking about a team environment. Like, I'm happy not to see your penis. If you don't drink, that's fine. But shower your pants on. What's going on? I don't want to see it any more than you want to show it, but you can't. Like, why that? I just don't get my head around. So it's a real weird thing. I know culturally sometimes it's a little bit different, but lads, can't shower your pants on. In a minimum ruling, cleanliness is not going to be done. You can't wash with your sweaty shorts on.
I'm foot up on the shower tray with a little towel.
Do you know what's interesting in Japan?
Right, a bit of talc.
So in Japan,
a lot of talc.
Culturally,
I'll take you down.
They love a shower. So at Rico, unbelievable showers, hot pool, everything else. They would have little stools that would fold up with all their gear, and they used to have shampoo, conditioner, body wash, sponges, scrubbers, everything, right? And they scrubbers, and they would go in there, take the gear out, pop it on the side, turn the stool over, sit on the stool, be in there for an hour. Full shower protocol, right? Honestly, lathered up to an inch of their lives. That was unbelievable. Right, I obviously rolled in shower day one, and I wasn't going to tell a story, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm a big fan of manscaping.
Right.
You're
a tiny garden.
Don't do it in a Japanese shower.
No, they don't do it over. No, I didn't manscape in a Japanese shower. I just pre-manscaped. I'm in a constant state of manscaping. It's very much like Buckingham Palace Gardens, I imagine, or like Twickenham Field, topiary.
Topiary, lovely stuff.
But obviously, culturally, that's not.
Is this since your Veet endorsement, or is this?
No. I've always been into it. Lovely. I just think
I went swimming with my littlest and guy full back rug. I'm like, dude, sort the back rug out.
You can't have that. You can't wear a fur gilet in the public pool. So anyway, I rolled into the
House
Japanese,
of Rugby, reaching parts other podcasts cannot reach.
But I rolled into Japanese showers, and there was a lot of like, what's this?
Godzilla.
And I was like, no.
That's why you do it, isn't it? That's why you do it.
And I was like, oh,
You
no.
have a moustache.
Make the most of what you've got, sunshine.
You have a moustache downstairs.
I had it tweaked up. It was like Poirot. It was really weird, like an upside down Poirot, like an elephant Poirot, right? And they said to me, you know, what's this? I said, well, what do you mean? And they're like, you know, it's not Japanese style. I said, no, it's English style, right? So I took one lad under my wing who would. They'd have a small, instead of a small towel, so they'd be showered, clean, perfectly clean, right? And then they'd have a little towel, like a chamois leather, for the top of the car, ultimate absorbent. And this guy would sit next to his locker, foot up, right, chamois in his balls, right, an inch away from my face. So I'd be talking to the other lads.
You know, like when they put a snooker ball back on the table after you pop it, you know, a little buff. Back into the middle.
Put his gloves on.
Yeah,
This bloke was buffing his bits, right, a foot away from my face, right, a foot away from my face. But it's a technical term, but the pubic hair over this is a little bit different, right? And he's there, and he's got this sort of full retro thing going on. And he's looking at me, he's like, haha, Asian style. And I said to him, I knew he was going on the World 7 circuit. I said to him, listen, are you single? And he's like, yeah. And I said, do you know what? I said, that's just not going to work. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, you can't go Asian style over there, you know, on the 7 circuit. You're not going to do that. So I convinced him. So he came in shaved up. And that was my one legacy, manscaping. Because slowly around the team, as I was showering, lads were getting more and more manscaping. So what impact did I have in Japan? Manscaping. That was the only thing I offered.
My introduction to manscaping was rooming with Phil Greening when I first, back in 2000, England, when he had his beaded.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beaded?
He had beads in his...
Yeah, but he used to go full. The problem is, lads get a bit carried away with the full setup. Looks like the last chicken in the shop. That's the problem. But so it's a fine balancing line. You've got to keep some sort of
I think
manners.
you went too far. I just walked in and was like, what is going on?
I remember one of my old England teammates, like one of the older guys, and I walked in the shower, and I was young, you know, obviously gobshite, and I remember just showering and just turning around and going, we need to talk about this. I can't say who it is, I'm embarrassing. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, mate, you can't be having that. And he's looking at me, and he's from Leicester, and he's like,
I know exactly. Yeah, I was literally about to mention him before.
And he's looking at me, and he's like, you know, thinking,
is he the person that hit you in the first run?
No, similar. He was in the surrounding area, and I remember honestly, he was like, well, it's
Go
married
back to
life,
the archives if you want to.
Yeah. It was like married life, and I said, mate, it doesn't matter about that. You can't. To be honest, it was like dreadlocks. It looked like a predator. It looked like top of a predator's head. Honestly.
Do you know, I've had a really shit day, and your pubic topiary has cheered me right
honestly,
up.
That's like the impact. That, and I shot one of the coaches with a BB gun in Japan. It was like a great hit. So over there, most of the lads had these unbelievable toys, like toy BB guns.
Yeah.
And I remember we were all sitting around having a laugh just before a meeting, and there was one little Japanese coach who was always a bit noisy with me. So I had one of these gas BB guns right in my hand, and Marlon is there talking, and all the lads like whispering, going, shoot him. So they're all like, you know, whispering in your ear, like peer group pressure. And it was like a hit out of a mafia movie. He was walking upstairs, and he used to wear these skin-tight waterproof trousers, right? And just as he stepped up, and the waterproof went taut on his ass, I literally just put my hand out the barrel, shot him in the ass, dropped the gun back into the barrel, and carried on talking. He was like this, and he was literally doing that for half an hour on the floor, and looking around, everyone's looking around, like it was like a crime. No one could solve the puzzle. It was a perfect hit, and honestly, he was dabbing wet bits of paper. It's like, and obviously all the Japanese guys like, you know, you can't do that. And I was like, lads, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. So that's probably why I've never been invited back. But it was a perfect hit.
I love that.
In The Sopranos,
Tony asked us to carry on the link with just one.
He said in my ear, he said, how the hell did we get from Sam Warburton to this? I don't really know.
He said, let's wrap it up in 25 minutes.
So that was about as well.
Oh dear.
Do you want to do a perfect pour? We were going to do we're going to do best sort of journeyman, but actually I think we should do a Sappuccino 15.
Can I tell you one story about Sam Warburton though quickly, which is brilliant, because I love him, and I think he's...
Can we just say what an amazing guy though?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, incredible career, and I think,
I'm sad he didn't enjoy 80%,
I think there's got to be more to it than that, because you can't say you do it all again. I think what he means is that there was hardship, especially him with injury.
Probably.
Pardon?
He'd probably do it all again.
And also, he was an incredible player who, like, you know, who had an amazing legacy. Yeah. And he's a lovely bloke, but I just remember that when we were on the Lions tour, there was... we'd have a few drinking things, right? And you can always spot the lads who don't drink.
Yeah.
Because they try to have a drink, but they're nursing it the whole time. And it's not going anywhere.
Sipping and tipping.
Yeah, sipping. And before you know it, they're like throwing it around plant pots and everything else. Like a lot of admin.
Yeah.
If I say I'm not drinking, like I'm not drinking tonight, I'm like, no, I'm not. We had this night out, right? And basically, Ben Teo was kind of in charge of the then Lions WhatsApp group. So what happened was we'd having this night out, and Sam had been nursing this drink the whole time. Right, we watched him. The boys were getting into him, and he was pretending he was drinking. It wasn't, and it was going on and on and on and on. About 5 or 6 hours, this pint hadn't gone anywhere. Anyway, most lads left, went out on a night out, and about 4 a.m, the fire alarm went off.
Yeah.
And like that, in the WhatsApp group, Ben Teo writes into it going, turns out that pint that Sam Warburton's been nursing's caught fire and set the alarm off. Mate, it was the greatest bit of chat that anyone ever did. And then, before we knew it, last day of the tour, Ben Teo just detonated the WhatsApp group. There were so many good bits in there that lads wanted to keep. And Ben Teo was admin, and it was like, can I be admin? Boom, gone. Like, Ben, where's all this stuff gone? He completely detonated the group. But it was just one genius moment.
Safety.
We're all standing outside the cold. All of our phones went. And they're like, Sam Warburton's pint's finally caught fire. He's been nursing for the last 17 hours.
Sort of adds to the romance, though, when you exit the group over.
Yeah, group over. He terminated the whole thing.
Oh, I love an exit group.
Sappuccino 15?
Yeah.
Are we in it? Do you win it?
Yeah.
Definition of Sappuccino?
So Sappuccino is not necessarily a bad thing. It's I was a massive one for Sappuccinos.
Black humour.
Black humour, where you work hard, you toe the party line, you're a good team man, but there's nothing better than sitting around over a coffee in an afternoon, slagging the coaches off, the system off. Why are we doing this? Why has that happened? Your teammates dress sense, their teeth, their hair, anything.
And then you turn up the next day and just suck it up and get on with it again.
You never actually rock the boat. You just sap. You're always miserable, but also very positive.
Next week, we're going to do a bin juice 15.
Yeah, fine.
So this week, our perfect pour, our weekly test in 119.5 seconds, because that's how long it takes to pour the perfect pint of Guinness, is a Sappuccino 15 in at the loose head.
It's got to be Tim Payne. Tim Payne, one of the fittest and most hardest working person, but one of the most negative.
Yeah.
I told you before that he called me up once when I was younger, and he said, he's like, Haskell. I was like, yeah. And he goes, you coming out to piss on all day? And I was like, no, he's like, fuck off. I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. He terrified me for so many years. But the best thing about Payne is that if you worked hard, and you got his approval, it was the greatest thing in the world. So one time he came up and complimented me and almost died. And then we were all kind of firm friends. But he was literally, the king.
He was. I've got him as vice captain.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
I'm impressed to know.
Super fit though, unbelievable. Bro.
You said that.
So fit.
Rig of Jabba the Hutt, but could just keep going.
Fitness,
Truck
swimming,
on. Nominations for hooker?
We're struggling on hookers, aren't we?
Leota? He's not.
Nah, he wasn't sappy.
He was too busy at the pub to be.
Mears, he's a smiler.
What about
one of the Welsh? Richard Hibbard?
Oh, were they sappy?
Meffin Davis?
No, Meth wasn't. He was.
I was going to say Ken Owens, but we call him like Chairman Ken, WRU Ken. He's so positive.
Isn't he?
He was, yeah. Now we'll leave hooker for the minute. Maybe the viewers can write in and find that one.
We can't find
Tighthead.
hooker.
You've got Cole, Nick Wood, Ben Franks.
Ben Franks, mate. The bloke, he's got the darkest sense of humour I've ever met. And do you know what? When I met him, people were like, oh, you're never going to get on with him. He's become one of my really great mates. He has me in hysterics, and he says offhand stuff that that people don't catch up, mate. He is so dry and so negative. And you see him, sometimes people want to say things to him, and I just look at them. I just fucking walk off halfway through a conversation. He won't even bring himself to
Not what you can do about it. No. George Shooter at hooker.
Yeah, maybe, but
it's hard to tell whether the Leicester boys were Sappuccinos or just miserable.
Yeah, because it's just the environment. They were all miserable.
From Leicester. Second rows.
Shawsey, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Really?
Mate.
He'd be up there. I mean, captain's coming in at number 5, but he would be up there as well. I mean, Shawsey just
Simon Shaw
loved a Sappuccino.
Yeah, you see him
a frothy Sappuccino.
Hated training, so he never wanted to train. Basically, as you always say, put his body in a body bag on a Saturday, and then literally moan, whinge, never play again. I'm retiring. Can't possibly get out of bed. That'd be a Monday. Then Tuesday, no, I'm fucked. I definitely need to retire. I can't do this. Was actually feeling a bit better, but the way we played was all wrong. I don't want to do it. I don't like it. And suddenly Friday roll around, jog through a team run, and then go again on Saturday. Human wrecking ball, destroy everything. Back to Sunday.
Who's your captain in at 5?
Jim Hamilton.
Jim Hamilton,
yeah,
without doubt.
Really?
Yeah.
You've never seen anything like it.
Launch spree, chucking out a couple of others.
I said,
I don't think I've ever seen anyone like Jim.
I said launches is great for a little sap as well, like very positive. Like, but even he, you can get him on a sap occasionally. Pascal Pape was full sap mode as well.
Talking about the jump, we were talking like Phil Tufnell is what I would call literally sapper. And I told him, I said to him on the jump, I was like, mate, you must have been brilliant around change room. Mr. Sappuccino, the ultimate sapper. And literally didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. I was like, what's going on here? And he had never heard of a Sappuccino. He's like, mate, I was a fucking team man through and through. I was like, no, you haven't got the essence of a Sappuccino. I'm saying that you're the hub. You are the hub, but at the same time, you don't conform. You don't. Then once he got it, he was like, I'm definitely, I'm definitely Sappuccino.
It's like like I said, team binge use the heartbeat. Yeah. Like Johnny Barrett, he's going to be a hooker for the team binges. Like 700 years playing 3 games or whatever it is, but he's like the king. The binges are like the heartbeat, but Sappuccinos will make what long days go past. Yeah. It's sitting in a change room sapping about everything. It's like walking in going, oh, do you know what we've got booked this afternoon? Right, one group's got yoga and then a spin class, and the other's got spin and yoga. So what you're doing is you're relaxing and then doing a spin, and then you're spin and relax. Like, I can understand the spin and relaxing, but just shit like that, talking about things.
What's the fucking point?
Yeah, what's the drill? What we're doing full contact again? Like crap drill. Did you see this drill? Where we used to do the defensive drill? It was like up, back, up. I was like, oh my god, like what is this toilet? So, I just
we're doing prehab. How the fuck going to help me with double contact day? Not fucking stretching my shoulders just so I can dislocate.
Some S&C guy is standing in a Boso ball with a fucking band, and they're like, you're like,
literally do 8 sets of this.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this doing?
The weird thing is like if you want to take an exercise in the gym and make it applicable, just put a couple of fucking bands on it on an uneven surface. Oh, this is rugby. This is rugby. You're like, no, this is crap.
Back row, please. You can pick yourself.
Yeah, I'm 100% got to pick myself.
Who are you going at 6?
I got it at 6. Sam Warburton's evidently got to be at 7 if he hates it.
But actually, being a Sappuccino involves actually having some humour, which doesn't sound like he has.
I'm so rattled because he didn't enjoy it. Since he's loved his career, loved every moment of the Ruggers. He even goes back to some bog shit in United or whatever just to play in the mud, and he loves it.
What was the Mortlock story in 03?
What, in the tunnel?
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't define how much you loved it.
So we went out and I'd convinced myself all week about a final, how you should approach it, and I'd gone, right, it's the biggest game I'm ever going to play in.
Yeah.
Pretty sure of that. I want to enjoy it. I don't want it to be one of those games where you're so worried about it you end up playing shit because you don't want to do anything. So I was sort of, right, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to be completely off the wall bouncing. So I was bouncing all over it, and I pulled into the tunnel as we were all lined out next to each other because you got to run past the cup and everything. And as it happened, we hadn't gone opposite, but Sterling Mortlock, my body double, no hair, pretty fucked up face, big unit. Was standing completely opposite me, and I was literally jumping around, and I sort of looked across at him, and he was just staring a hole in, and I think Takuri's back. And I looked over and went, fuck me, mate, you better play well today because I'm going to be fucking awesome. And he sort of looked at me and stared at me. I was like, oh no, tunnel fight. Not the way to start World Cup.
We're going to have to do this.
And in all fairness, he went to me, mate, good on you. Remember, gave me a slap on the arse and we ran out.
Really?
Brilliant, yeah.
What a boy.
He's a great lad.
Yeah, I love stuff like that.
Still
you better play well because I'm going to be awesome. All right, Chief.
And I was like, fuck.
I remember my first final. See you later. I don't actually never been anywhere near one.
Oh, come on. Back row, please.
I've put Andy Hazel down as one of them.
Yeah.
Good shout.
Unbelievable. And a sapper, and then a complete exaggerator. So the saps got so big they were completely unbelievable.
And embellisher. He's like the guy from Phoenix Knights.
Yeah.
Oh, next minute I was playing Roger Federer at Wimbledon. You're like, what? Incredible business though. Andy Hazel in home
Smart home sounds.
Smart home sounds unbelievable.
Smart home solutions.
Give him a shout out.
I'm trying to get him to do a home cinema for me, but apparently he takes 50 grand job. So.
He did mine.
yeah, no doubt. That's
a royal seal, no doubt. A royal warrant.
Megan's got the jets, he's got the budget on the cinema. I think we'll get the forensic accountant on that.
Blindside.
I thought we put Hask at blindside.
What about Tom Croft?
I think Crofty was negative, but again, it's the Leicester. When you separated these lads from Leicester, I don't think people appreciate what Leicester whereas
when people say Leicester mutes, it's just.
No, but I don't think people realise it was because of their success. They were the only tolerated clique in everything. I'm talking about there was 8 of them, and they fucking walked around like the Borg, right? One consciousness, and they would sit at dinner, breakfast, and lunch together, and they would never be apart. Never.
Did any of the Leicester crew ever break out of the group?
Oh no! If you got them on their own, they're all lovely blokes.
Only Austin would probably be the only.
No.
one.
Like I told you when Coley and I bonded.
But all the forwards always sat together.
Yeah,
I think
but
the backs
weird.
were different.
Mate, I would sit with someone, I mean, probably because no one liked me, but I sat at a dinner and breakfast with someone different every time. I never once went, oh, you're going to the dining room, let's walk down and hold hands. They were literally like, boop, 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 boop. It was like they had intercoms. They were always together. Days out together, you know, doing, like, I don't know what they do on a day out, Leicester, where you go and fight each other in a car park, go and maul each other for cake. So, I mean, honestly, and I filmed it on that Hask cam, but someone once described that Hask cam as giving a nutter a machine gun and wondering why it all went horribly wrong. Best viewing figures O2's ever had.
You can take blindside 8.
Oh,
there is only
There's
one.
only one. Nick Easter.
Minty. What, mate? He was the king of sapping.
Yeah.
The king of everything.
Yeah.
He was like, fucking shit.
Fucking
This is
hate
shit.
fucking
Him and
training.
Payne used to share a room together. Mate, the negativity, it was like, you know, in Harry Potter.
All you could see was, I was literally about to say, all you could see was the Dementors circling this room.
Mate, it was like
They're
cold.
just taking
You go
the
down
life
corridor
out of it.
and go, oh, what's going on here? And like all the colour would drain out your face. Honestly, you had to get out there and eat a chocolate frog, otherwise you'd fall apart. Honestly, like, every time Minty come out of the bath, you'd be like, expecto patronum! And him and Payne would sneak back into their rooms. Terrific.
He'd be a good skipper as well, actually, if Hamilton pulls up.
But you know what Minty, my favourite thing is, I know this, we've got to keep all this shit in because it's gold, if I do so myself, is Minty would wait, right, with an England camp. I couldn't understand that. He wouldn't ever talk to me. And then suddenly he'd come round and be like, oh, Hask, you know, what we're going to do is a bit of number 8 work here. Just as Jono was walking past. And for like weeks, I couldn't work out what he was doing. He was like roughing me, going, oh, no, well, what are we going to work on? And one point I went, Minty, will you just fuck off? Honestly, you think I was born yesterday? And Jono's like, oh, John Wells like, oh, the senior pro helping me. I was like, Minty, have a day off, mate. Honestly, I was manipulated and cajoled.
Play the game. Your scrum half. There's probably a couple to pick from.
Yeah, I've picked Pete Richards.
Yeah, agreed.
He was in there what was he picked for the other day? Elbows and teeth and...
Yeah,
You picked him for something.
it was a violent. It was like cage fighting.
Octagon.
Because he had a cauliflower ear, didn't he?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
loved to dust
Sapper at
up.
9.
Yeah.
10?
Gone Goody.
Goody.
Have you?
Another man who takes landscaping to a whole new.
Yeah.
He used Veet for men.
See, ironically,
Well, he's putting it back in different places.
Because beating that can't fucking help the shape of it, can
No, but honestly, he'd time it. So every time I opened the changing room door in the mornings, he'd be bent over getting something out of his kit bag. And that was like the Eye of Sauron up there. I mean, it was like him out to an inch of its life. And then he turned around, it was the last chicken in the shop. And I was like, every single day of my time at Wasps. I love Goody. It was the most traumatic thing I've ever seen. Arse chicken. And honestly, it would rattle me. I'd come in, and what the worst bit was, the cleaner had then mopped the floor. So the floor was wet. I was skidding around, so I couldn't shout at Goody because he was the boy.
Driven into the vortex.
Shouting, I was like, like sliding, like, no! Mate, it was horrific.
It's all in his quiff now. So
Yeah, he looks good. Centre combination?
I've gone Kevin Maggs.
Old school.
Old school. He loved a little sap. He was never happy. And then James Simpson Daniel.
Nice. I'm amazed Simbad was a sapper. He sort of comes across as an
He
angelic
hated
white boy.
everything.
Did he?
Yeah, he looks like
Unless he was sat there with a sandwich made purely of 2 heavily buttered pieces of white bread and Monster Munch crisps. He was with ketchup on. He was fucking
And a copy of the
miserable.
Racing Post.
I put Jonathan Joseph purely because, like, most of the time he looked quite tired and broken, and every time he'd come in, like, he'd be like, "You right, JJ?" He'd be like, "Yeah." Yeah, like he'd always train, but he looked like he was broken.
He's a modern pro sapper.
Yeah. He was a sapper. Yeah.
Okay, let's go JJ. We'll go JJ and Kevin Maggs.
Yeah.
And then your wingers.
Well, Paul Sackey.
Paul Sackey would make.
Mate, Paul Sackey did an interview for the programme, right? And it went likes chilling, or like dislikes rugby. It's like, what do you mean? And they were like, the first interview was like on Sky. It's like, well, you know, it's like, so what's your favourite food? Oh, I don't, you know, fish and chips. It's like, well, you know, what do you like? Oh, chilling. What do you dislike? Rugby. You're like, oh my God. Sack would hate everything.
He literally hated everything.
Hated everything.
I love that.
Fucking hate rugby.
Fucking rugby.
He'd be great fun to have on here.
yeah,
What's he
yeah.
doing now? Is he still doing cars?
Interior design now.
He's an interior designer.
I thought he was doing cars, wasn't he?
No. He did cars for a little bit, and then
He was always
I saw him the
sorting
other day, he's
Quater
doing
out with
property,
E.
and he's interior designing them. Yeah,
Mate,
Is that
I mean,
right?
I love Sackey.
Some funky interiors.
Great.
Lots of mirrors.
He was an ambassador for Wasps a bit. I think old Derek, the owner, who got him on the firm, paying him because he was suddenly there the whole time. And I was like, why are you here? And he was like, being paid, innit? I was like, funny that.
I went to the actually last time I saw him was at the baseball when the Red Sox played Chicago, and he popped up, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Oh, one of the guys who owns all my answers that I do. He invited me. I was like, "Fuck hell, Saki, you're Black Buck,
mate. He's such a boy, mate. He's such a boy. He's one of the loveliest blokes in world rugby.
Yeah. I'd like to have him on here. Your right winger.
You said.
I've got Charlie Sharples.
Right,
Really?
I had a great story about Charlie Sharples, right? That he's so tight with his cash, like so tight, that he had a spreadsheet that he'd set himself up with, and the lads would go to Costa, right, and he'd put in the spreadsheet whether he could afford to do it for that month. Bear in mind, a Costa coffee was like £2. And he'd be like, "Oh, sorry, lad, spreadsheet says no." So he'd turn up with his own plastic cup, with his own coffee in Costa, and drink it with the lads.
He definitely did do that.
I mean, that has got to be the tightest thing
he is different.
I've ever heard of.
I think spreadsheet says no might be a new bit of merch.
Spreadsheet says no. Honestly, Doz reckons he'd call them up to come out, and they'd be like, "Nah, spreadsheet says no, can't do this, man."
Was he in the grill shed though?
The drill shed, yeah.
The
drill
cost
shed?
shed.
No, it was the Gloucester grill
Gloucester
shed.
grill shed,
Which is
Well, it was a restaurant. It's not anymore.
not anymore.
well done to our Sharples. Any other contenders?
Chris Ashton.
Yeah,
He loves quite. He's very funny, but he does love a sap as well.
Right.
But but just mid conversation, Ashley's concentration wanders. So we'll be sapping about something, and he'll turn around and go, "Look at your teeth," and I'll be like,
all
"What do you
the time
mean?" He'll be
it's
like, "Yeah, look at your teeth."
And you go, "Look at your fucking nose."
yeah, and be like, "Oh,
Not that
apparently,
you're northern all of a sudden, but
Ashley suffers from hot balls. He's always got red balls." And you'd be like, "What's wrong?" Yeah, he's got hot balls.
what
Apparently.
we found out about today's shows is how much that James likes to look at other men's tackles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very true.
And your fullback to complete the mix.
Well, you said Fodes, and I said Bolsh.
That's
Ian
Where's my
Bolsh.
shield?
Fucking give it to the gas.
I thought we talked about maybe Dylan Armitage as well. He was just more angry.
Yeah.
So he goes in our 50. Okay,
He was more
Foden.
rebelling against the man.
Man,
rather
yeah,
than
very
anything
much
else.
so, yeah. But Fodes
Foden
was...
or Bulls?
Well, I think Bolsh for that famous line scene when he's gum shield.
Where's my gum shield?
Gum shield, Luke, get me gum shield.
I gotta go see him later.
Have you?
You two are like
What's
thick
he
and thieves,
doing?
aren't they? Best of friends. Wasn't he selling internet insurance something the other day? Like
Security, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
FX.
FX. Oh, it was FX. It was something else.
Well trodden into that path.
Yeah.
I need a hooker. Hartley in the early years. Freddie Mendes.
Actually, Dills does
John
like a sap.
Humphreys.
Actually, Freddie was a big sap at Bath because he was so homesick. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, he hated it. But he did do. But he was an absolute clown as well. So he basically, in one training session, he got tackled really hard and literally laid there like he'd been sparked. And I shit you not, he laid there for 10 minutes. Literally, all the medical flew out. Everyone came in. They were all trying to wake him up, like smelling salt, slapping him. And then he opened his eyes and went, "Yeah," and then fucking ran off. But he hated it. He'd stay up till 4, 5 a.m. because he wanted to speak to everyone back in Argentina, and then literally be dead at training, miserable, and then
Tough
around again.
to
He couldn't
beat
deal
that.
with it.
You were going to go Dills in the early days.
I think I think Dills when he was
Inspirational in the last few
but
years.
the good thing about him is he'd switch in and out of it. So I think he's good at sapping Dills. We love
anyone
that.
who's a professional saps at some
Yeah.
point. It's impossible not to. You can't be unless you actually Mearsy. He's probably always happy all the time.
yeah.
This fucking smug little bastard.
Piglet.
Piglet.
Never stops lying.
What's his name? The prop.
Duncan Bell.
No. The South African kind. Matt Stevens. Matt Stevens and Sauce and Matt Stevens and Mearsy, and just be like Piglet. And I remember we were out in New Zealand, and Mearsy and him were sitting next to it, and he was like, "Hello, my friend. I'd like some oysters. Can I have some of those bluff oysters?" And like Matt's there eating his oysters, and he turns around and goes, "These are not bluff oysters." And they're like, "Sir, I can assure you." He goes, "Nah, my palate is refined. These are not bluff oysters. Take them away." So the whole time we were calling bluff oysters and Piglet. It's like Piglet.
Two completely different ends because Piglet is one of the tightest men on the planet as well. He would spend 2 hours to save a fiver on a phone. He'd phone someone for 2 hours to make him save a fiver, whereas Sauce would definitely not do that.
He'd buy the phone company.
Yeah. I bumped into Sauce and actually.
Sauce would go, "Dad, Russ, can we buy this? This company's not working for me.
I just need a little bit of pocket money. You've got a couple of billion then.
He's managing a lodge, I think, or a hotel.
Is he?
somewhere in
I sort of
SA.
bumped into him in Ibiza actually. He was on good form.
Oh, was he?
With his lovely wife, yeah. They were lovely. I mean, again, we do take the piss, but
Size
everything's
of
always
the
been.
house?
I never mean to. No, it's actually right.
Was he not?
Yeah, I've seen him bigger. Yeah, he
I
was
saw
alright.
him straight after.
I haven't seen Mearsy. Mearsy was one of the loveliest people as well. Like, do you know what?
He's always at
Out of
Twickers
rugby,
doing
he
bits
was
and the bobs and that.
They're one of the loveliest people. I've never. It was
He's
one
Victor's
person.
little man, isn't he?
Yeah, I'd never have a bad word to say about either.
He's
of those
in
two.
life coaching. And
Yeah, he
business
is.
coaching.
You're absolutely right. We could do with a bit of that. Sabatino 15, Payne Mendes Franks, Simon Shaw, Jim Hamilton, Haskell Easter Hazel, Richards, Andy Good, Kevin Maggs, JJ, Saki, Sharples, Bush. Actually, I think that's quite
not
a
a
good
bad team,
That is
actually,
quite a good
either.
team. They'd make the quarterfinals of a European competition. Or similar. Well done, I enjoyed that. Bin Juice 15 next weekend.
Yeah,
if you
fine.
could come with
Bin
2 minutes of
Juice.
prep, that'd be
Yeah,
very
fine.
useful.
Bin
The official
Oh, it's our live
definition
show
of
next week.
Oh, it is, yeah.
It is our live show next week.
Official definition of a bin juice is people who just train, never
Yeah,
play.
so bin juice, I said before, like the heartbeat of the team, but they're also the guys that get absolutely no chance. So they'll get a chance in pre-season, they'll contact all their family, they will say, this is my moment, everyone will buy all the kit, and then they'll never be seen again. They hold the bags, they're cannon fodder, they are the ones first out with the bibs, they're the ones when the first team are playing, they've got absolutely no prospects. They go in and basically one-on-ones with the coaches are like, could you just be less crap? So I have actually heard from someone I know who does the Bin Juice count. Apparently there's some merchandise and a few bits coming soon. So stay tuned. If you head to Team Bin Juice on Instagram, you'll find out more.
Lovely. When's our merch out?
Our merch out will be available at the live show.
Is it next week?
Next week, live show. We're going to get some special guests involved. All the tickets have been sold out. But do you know what? We're going to do more of these because it's sold out so quickly. We want to bring you the best entertainment. So stay tuned for more.
We're doing two in quite quick succession,
Yeah.
aren't we?
Are we? When's the second one?
Well, it's moved to 3rd of October, I think.
No idea. No one's told me. 2nd of October, apparently, says
2nd.
producer Tony. I've really enjoyed that. Thank you, fellas.
That's right.
It's a really nice way to kind of finish things off. I don't know why they're all wetting themselves
Why are they
backstage.
laughing?
Why are they laughing? No, I've missed the gag.
Someone's fallen off a chair or
I've
something.
missed the gag.
Murray's changed his shirt and it's still
Mazza.
Shoreditch Caribbean.
That's about it for this week. Thank you very much indeed for your love, your support, and for watching and listening to House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our friends at Guinness. A reminder, you can download and watch Liquid Football with Kelly Cates from all the same places you get your House of Rugby. We've also got Swanee's cricket show reflecting on England losing the Ashes. That'll be a good listen. And there's a new TKO with Carl Frampton coming up on Thursday as well. To all our friends coming next Tuesday evening in Earl's Court. Look forward to seeing you then. To everyone else, the pod will be available as usual. Thank you for listening. Have a good week.
Peace out.
We're back next week. Bye for now.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness. Drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts.